I posed a question on Twitter and on my YouTube channel the other day, and I made a pretty bold statement. I said that 90% of the creators out there would probably get the answer to this question wrong. And to my surprise, I was actually wrong. It was higher than 95% of them got the answer wrong. Here's the exact post. I asked, if you're looking at an 18-minute video in your analytics and you saw this, 27% average percentage viewed, 4 minutes and 54 seconds average view duration, and a 4.6 click-through rate on that video, what's the first thing that you would do? And I posted a retention graph along with it. This one right here. Now do me a favor, if you're a creator, pause this video for a second, go down to the comments below, and tell me what you think you would do next. Now I got a lot of different replies both on Twitter and on YouTube from people suggesting a lot of the same things. The bottom line is that pretty much everybody who looked at this data, which was fairly complete, went right on to tell me what I needed to do to fix this video. Some people told me that the presentation probably wasn't engaging. Some people suggested that what I may have promised in the title or thumbnail didn't actually represent what was going on in the video, and there was some disconnect, so that I probably needed to either change the thumbnail or the title or both. I had some people suggesting to me that the video was just too long and that I should have cut that up into many smaller videos instead. Some people said that where that retention dip started at the beginning, I probably should have cut all of that out and let the other portion of the video carry on from there. One of the few people who actually gave a great answer and was spot on is my friend Liron Segev. He's got a channel that's pushing close to 1 million subscribers now, and he's had plenty of videos that drive millions of views. Liron didn't offer advice. The first thing he did was ask more questions. Something that most of the other creators failed to do. Liron said, change nothing. It depends on the time frame. If this is getting crazy impressions from browse or suggested and getting crazy views, then CTR will be low and retention drops, as those are cold audiences. That's some pretty bold advice. Well, for everyone who had answered that I needed to somehow fix this video, and any one of you who may have come to that same initial impression, let me start by giving you more data about this video. This video drove 1.3 million views, drove 12,700 subscribers. It accumulated 109,000 hours of watch time. It got 10,611 comments. It got 45,434 likes, and it actually got over 2,000 shares. And it did all of that in under 12 weeks. This brings up huge questions for a lot of creators. Haven't we always been taught that you want to have a good retention graph? Don't you want to get more average view duration and more of the average percentage of the video viewed for it to do well? Don't you want to have a higher click-through rate so that more people actually watch the video? Well, here's something that I think a lot of creators haven't heard enough, and that's understanding all of your metrics at scale. And what I mean by that is what happens to the performance metrics of a video when it actually starts doing very well. I think what happens is a lot of creators, because they're smaller and they're trying to connect and grow their channel, they're looking for answers to improve their content. And yes, it's true, when you have a smaller channel and your videos haven't been getting a lot of impressions or driving a lot of views, it's good to look at things like your click-through rate and look at your average view duration and your retention reports. But here's the truth of the matter. When you first launch a video, it's most likely going to get served out to people who are your strongest target audience members. People in your community. These are people who may have watched some of your content recently, or they may have clicked the subscribe button and hit the notifications bell because they wanted to make sure they were notified when you drop a new video. These are like your super fans. So when you put out a new video and it gets served to them first, of course they're gonna click. And of course, if they like you, they're probably gonna try to watch a majority of your video. So those initial engagement metrics usually are very high, because YouTube knows exactly who to serve your video to first. What a lot of people aren't teaching creators out there is what happens when that video actually starts to do well. Here's where things change. When your videos are pushed out to broader and broader target audiences, people who maybe aren't the perfect fit for that video, they may not click as quickly. Or when they do click and start watching, they're not die-hard fans and they may not watch as long. But YouTube understands all of this. It understands what other videos look like when they're pushed out at scale. I can tell you that most of the creators I know who have gotten over 1 million views on a video, their average view duration and their average click-through rate is much lower than what the rest of the content on their channel looks like that has lower impressions and hasn't reached as many people. Does every video have the ability to be a 100 million viewed video? If every video on the platform, regardless of niche, was done perfectly, the perfect title, the perfect thumbnail, and the perfect length, and the perfect structure, and the sound, and the video, and everything was done perfectly. And the answer to that question is no. And you might ask yourself, why? If the video is perfect, why doesn't it keep driving more and more views? Well, there's some very simple things you have to understand, like conversation. Not every video is going to talk about something that 100 million people would be interested in, or even 10 million, or even 1 million for that matter. The video that I was referencing was a video where I talked about how Filmora had canceled our lifetime licenses. It started reaching people who didn't even know who I was, didn't know what Filmora was, and didn't even edit videos. But they were interested in the David and Goliath story of a YouTuber who was struggling up against a major corporation, and they got invested into the conversation and wanted to see how it progressed. So that video ended up getting a lot of impressions. That's a metric that a lot of creators out there really should be paying more attention to. Impressions represents how far out your video is being surfaced across the platform. And the more impressions you get, the more your CTR is going to slowly drop, and the more your average view duration is going to drop as well. The reason I'm telling you this is I don't want any creators out there looking at a lower CTR on a video that's actually doing really well and thinking they need to change the thumbnail or they might need to change the title. This is completely normal. If you see a retention graph like this and you say to yourself, wow, there's a big problem with the beginning of this video, there may in fact be no problem whatsoever. That video might actually be a high-performing video, and that's just what metrics look like when a video in my particular niche starts to reach that broad an audience. But what a lot of people don't know is that even someone like Mr. Beast can reach the point of saturation. As good as a video is, it will reach the point where there's no one left to serve it to. Not because there aren't other viewers out there, but because the viewers that YouTube is putting it in front of, they aren't clicking. They aren't choosing to watch it. They're choosing to watch something else. And depending on the topic of your video, that video might reach a point of saturation sooner for your channel or your niche than it would for someone else. Now, I've spoken at Vid Summit and been on the same stage as Mr. Beast, and I was able to see when he presented his data. And what would surprise a lot of creators out there is his click-through rate on most of the videos that have been around for a while is actually lower than most of yours might be. His click-through rate on some of the videos that he showed us was 4.7, 4.9%. He's even posted on Twitter some of his more successful videos right when they were being launched and doing well was somewhere maybe just north of 7%, 7.3%. But what you have to understand is that's a high click-through rate when it's presented against billions of impressions that he's getting. Impressions is the number that you really want to pay attention to. There does come a point where even a really high-performing video can slow down. You can actually see that in the video that we're talking about here. It did very well for a couple of weeks, driving 1 million views. But then it slowed back down to what I would call a trickle, and that trickle is probably somewhere 1,000 to 2,000 views a day. And YouTube is still pushing it out, but not as aggressively because people aren't responding to it as they were originally when the video was first published. Now, that doesn't mean that the video won't perform well again in the future. It did here a month or so later where it jumped way up in views. Not nearly as much as it did when it jumped in the beginning at 130 some odd thousand views per day. But as viewers started engaging with it more, it pushed up to over 100,000 views in this small weekend period. And the minute those same types of viewers started showing disinterest, YouTube slowed down on the recommendation. When you really dig into this, I believe that there are 7 aspects that decide whether or not a video is going to perform well or whether it's going to fail. And I'll dive into that in an upcoming video. But if you have any questions or comments about what we covered here today, do me a favor and drop a comment down below and I'll do my best to answer those questions for you. In the meantime, don't let a few bad analytics out of context throw you off. Keep creating. Peace.